Hey, it's Crumbs. You're lost? How do you not know where you are? It's Thorin's channel.
Right, this is going to be episode 8 of Elitists United. We've reached the end of this regular portion of the split. I've always thought that was actually the most flawed part about how Riot set it up, that there is no actual name for what the portion of the tournament is before the playoffs. Like, regular portion doesn't really work that well. If you just say the split, it doesn't work that well. Whatever. That's a Riot problem. It's not my problem. So we have reached the end of that. We now know the teams that are in the playoffs. Obviously, the two guests we have for this episode, technically both G2 members, because they're the two support players here. We've got Mikyx in the right-hand corner, and then due to his untimely injury, promisq, formerly Sprattle, formerly whatever before that, of many teams, as we discussed on the last episode, replaced him for last week. Should we just start there? Should we talk about that aspect? So, Mickey, give us some info on this, because wasn't it the case that you already had basically like exacerbated whatever injury you had before you actually took the week off? Like, had you already had pain in your wrist or whatever it was in the weeks prior?
Yeah, so basically, I had like some mild pain ever since the start of the split, but it wasn't that extreme, and I thought it was gonna go away, like, if I take like small breaks, and if I don't play too much. But after, I think around the time we played SK, I think it was around week 5 or week 6, then I started feeling a bit like more extreme pain, and it was actually like really hard to play. So that's when I started taking it a bit more serious and started going to like physio sessions and going to doctors and stuff like that. And then I just kind of played through it until week 9, where we secured first place, and then I said, well, it's rather not risk it, so I'll just like take a week off and rest.
Okay. And what was the scenario then, promisq, with being called up? Was it really out of the blue?
I mean, I haven't heard anything about it, and I'm pretty sure G2 kept like a lock on it. So yeah, it was out of the blue for sure. I was not expecting.
Fair enough. Right, what could you tell us then, promisq, about the games themselves then? Because obviously G2 did lose both the games. To be fair, like, obviously it's the first games you've had to play all split long. They play with a totally different lineup. But how would you describe how the games went? Like, was the expectation to actually win both the games?
I mean, not expectations, I wouldn't say. And I'm not sure. Like, the first game looked so fucking rough. Especially, I thought we were just going to have to FF20 because it looked so bad. But I guess we held it together and managed to actually make a game out of it, which is like good. It was exciting. So that's the first game. The second game, I mean, it was way better, and I felt like it had some impact, but I didn't play that good individually. I could have played better. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, maybe give us some insight on what was it like to play with Perks as an AD carry.
It's quite like special, I would say, because the guy haven't played bot like any other player who has played it for years and whatever. So like I don't have that good synergy, and I can see a big difference when I watch Mickey and Perks play, like just screaming. But I mean, I don't have that much to say right now. We have only played together like 4 weeks now, 3 or 4 weeks, and that's not even screaming like 100% of the time. So it's like it's really early stage kind of. So I mean, I think it's different for sure. Like playing with someone who hasn't played a lot of bot, and he has a lot of unique views on bot lane. So it's like it's a good learning experience, I think. Yeah, that's all I'd say, kind of.
Okay. What about you then, Mickey? What's it like to play with Perks as an AD carry? Like, was he, when he first started changing the role, was he a complete noob? Did you tell him what to do in the lane all the time?
No, actually, we used to play bot lane even like 2 years ago. Like whenever it was like off season, we just kind of played duo queue, and he played bot lane because it was like his secondary role.
Fucking hell, this guy sets up his portion like years in advance. I'm going to give him the dedication's amazing, Like, if I was the G2 org now, or any other org, I'd just have a look who he's duoing with right now. Like check for about a year and a half from now. What the fuck? Why is he playing with Upset? That's another AD carry. That's weird. Okay, anyway, I keep going, Mikyx. Right, I interrupted you there, mate. Yeah, okay. So you were playing with him a couple of years ago. Then you come to now.
But yeah, now since we started playing this off season, I liked that we could play a lot more champions, because in the past I played with Kobe and Hans, and they were more like smaller champion pools.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that he's really flexible with the champion pool, because since last year, mages are pretty viable in bot lane. And last year, for example, we couldn't play them. We only played one game of Vladimir with Hans, and that was a loss on stage.
Sure.
So, right, I mean, I felt like pretty good, because like I had a lot of freedom in draft as well, because we could like flex even between us like some champs. And overall, I think he had pretty good knowledge of bot lane as well. And I just had to like teach him a bit about lane at the start, the first 1 or 2 months. But then I think he's smart enough. I mean, he picked it up really fast, so I didn't really have any issues.
Okay. What do you want to know about this topic, Veteran?
Okay, so I'm actually really interested. Did you, when it was obvious that your injury is going to be a hindrance, did you guys like plan to change like your playstyle in game or anything to compensate for that? Because you guys ended up very topside focused for the last few weeks, both with promisq and with you. So I'm wondering if that was like a conscious thing or if that's just something that's been happening.
Well, since I started playing less and less scrims, I could only play like a few champions that I felt comfortable on. So that was like Alistar, Tamkench, Braum, and recently Galio, because Galio became like higher priority.
Yeah.
So on stage, I just kind of picked Galio, like blind pick, and then just kind of chilled. And then sometimes I pressed W flash, and that was pretty much my job the whole game. Didn't really play around bot. Didn't really play around bot unless I had flash up, so we could get a free kill. But yeah, it wasn't really like a plan, I guess.
Yeah, because people have pointed, obviously there's been like a downturn in G2 recently, and it's really easy to suddenly blame the issues bot lane for it, but I always saw it as more of like a topside issue. When you actually looked at how these games are playing out, most of the things that are going on in the game is happening towards topside, even sometimes at the detriment of bots. So obviously when you guys had that wave in a really bad position for so long in the first game, Jarvan spent most of the time around topside instead of fixing it, and that could be down to like a synergy issue between you and Perks. It wasn't necessarily like on you, but that was never getting fixed. Whereas I think if I saw Cold in that game, he would have rooted straight back down towards bot side and then tried to fix that wave. And then in the initial games with Mikyx, for example, was it against OllieJ? No, it wasn't against OllieJ. I can't remember specifically who it was against. It was against Splice. Against Splice, it wasn't necessarily down to like your lane or any sort of issue with you that you guys lost that game. I think you actually lost that game around rotations from your solo laners. But it seemed like you guys were trying to do a lot more than you probably could do with your solo laners, and that seemed to be like kind of like a playstyle difference. But yeah, even though obviously all of the changes and the issues have happened bot lane, I don't actually think that's strategically what's wrong with the team right now if you're pointing to the downturn G2 had.
Yeah, can agree with that.
Is it actually, by the way, known going into the playoffs? Like, has it been decided who plays in all the games? Are you going to do a rotation? What's going to happen with that?
So I'm not 100% sure yet, but so far my wrists have gotten a bit better. So the plan was that I would play in playoffs at least until my arms start to fall off.
Okay.
So
you got a 2-0 the upper bracket game, go in the final, win really quickly.
Yeah, I just have to 3-0 really fast and then go home.
Quick games only.
Like 20-minute ones. And then I will try to get like, what's it called? Like ice packages in between games so that I can actually play, I guess. But yeah, the plan was that I would play in the playoffs.
Obviously, the other team should just veto all the champions that are like really easy to play, no mechanical ability. Just everyone wondered what the draft strategy was against G2, but it's starting to emerge gradually now.
Well, but the problem is that the enemy support that we play also plays the same champs, so they ban out themselves.
Yeah, that is true.
They ban all tanks, break out a mage, and then he'll break out the Scion anyway. It's not really like a winning scenario if you want to attack Mickey.
They have no way.
Splatzer, you wanted to like say something for ages. Like, what did you want to say?
I mean, it was a point back about jungle, like how we play around.
Yeah.
Play around the lanes, and it was like it's kind of whatever now. But I just want to say that I don't think it was like we didn't really need Junkos in the origin game. No, I mean in the Fnatic game. Yeah. It was just like we fucked up one wave. No, I meant in the Fnatic game, and like we fucked up once, and then they could just slow push and. There's nothing jungler could do, like it was just doomed, So I mean, just a small point, I don't think that's like when we need a jungle, but I do get your point because, I feel like maybe it has like gone towards that playstyle a bit more, top focused. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Right.
And it hasn't
Being as we've got a while then since till you guys play your match anyway, that like I call it like the upper bracket game because I don't really know how else you're supposed to describe that, like one of the semi-finals, I guess you could say is the other way. Since it's a while till you play that one, let's talk about that matchup first then. So Veteran, set me up for this one. What do you think of the matchup of Origin versus G2?
Origin versus G2. Well, I always thought Origin was the team that would actually beat G2 if any team was able to beat G2, just because this team has so many smart players on it, and they also have a really perfect mix of like temperaments. Where I'm not saying that nobody will ever argue on that team. There will definitely be arguments on that team, but I don't think that they're ever going to like completely break apart like you've seen some super teams do, and they have like really clashing personalities. And this is a team that kind of comes in with the kind of game plans that are like the only reason Splice is able to pick up such solid wins later on, for example. And at the same time, their execution is like really top tier at almost every stage of the game. Like some of these mid-game rotations that I point to of G2 in some weeks are never issues in Origins. And if you just used Origin as a playbook for the same rotations, you'd actually be able to do them really, really smoothly over time. So right now, the way that G2 has been playing last few weeks, I would obviously favor Origin, but this is also part of why I wanted to ask if it was like kind of a conscious thing to switch to topside focus, because if you're doing this trying to make up for like a potential issue, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go into playoffs playing the same way we've seen you play in the last couple of weeks, which could make it a lot closer. Because I do think, generally speaking, the level of talent on G2 is much higher.
Sure.
But I do think Origin is at least showing right now to be the smarter team, which matters a lot in this game.
Okay. Mikyx, which, if you obviously, one thing I want to ask before we preview this matchup is, who do you actually think is the best team after G2 at the moment? Is it Origin? Is it Fnatic?
Yeah, it's Origin. For sure.
Okay, why did you pick them over Fnatic in that sense?
Well, from judging from their past games, I think Fnatic wins most of their games from good level 1 strats and good early game. But I saw against us, for example, they couldn't really close out the game, and I think they're not as smart as Origin, I guess. And usually Origin games are won off of them reacting to enemies, and like most of the advantages they get is by cold counter ganking instead of doing some crazy creative level 1 strategy. I think in a best of 5, I think Origin will probably be better.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I agree as well, but it's just that I've noticed at the moment it's good. The two most intolerable fan bases in League of Legends are back, guys. Fnatic and TSM fans are back because their teams have won almost all the games. We're now supposed to forget the first 3 to 4 weeks of the split, and if we ignore that part, they're all 8-0, 9-1. Like, and I count all the results, but then again, that's just me. I'm not a fan of either of those teams. So they all want us to tell them that those teams are the second best, if not the best, in their regions. But we'll see in the playoffs. That's the good thing. We don't need opinions. We can look at the results, guys. So watch the results.
I mean,
so, okay, yeah, go on.
I'd be willing to pander to the Fnatic base a little, because like every single time that Fnatic for the last half of the split have shown a significant flaw, they've kind of fixed that like really fast. And the flaw that Mikyx is pointing to in G2, when it came to closing out the games around inhibitor turrets and the really terribly inefficient way that they were trying to do it, that was almost entirely fixed when we saw the Splice game the very next day. So I'm actually really confident in Fnatic's ability to adapt to the point where I am praying for the love of God that they don't make me look like an idiot on Listen Loco and actually do win the whole split. I think they still actually could do that. Because this team has gone from like we've band-aided our mid lane issue and we have like one fucking strategy that we can play with Reckless, to like, okay, we can play around both side lanes now, but we're still band-aiding mid, to like the situation we're at now where they actually look like one of the strongest teams that have beaten every single top team. And they haven't done this purely by cheese, even if initially speaking they were showing like just one very specific strategy they could do. They have adapted over time. So whereas I would definitely agree with you, they've gotten most of their early advantages through more like cheesy methods. I wouldn't be surprised if the Fnatic that we see in players is completely different to the Fnatic that we see now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pretty like interesting top 3 we have, because I think it's like Origin, Fnatic, and G2 for sure. But I feel like it mostly comes down to like matchups, like just how teams stack up against each other. And while I think maybe Origin is the second best team, I think maybe Fnatic, for example, will beat Origin, because they match up better. So I'm not sure. I'm more like I'm leaning towards Veteran there. That I think maybe Fnatic stacks up better against OG. So yeah.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I feel like Fnatic would be the kind of team that would be able to grab an early advantage against Origin and play it out that Origin wouldn't be able to plan for.
I kind of feel like it's a triangle, but at the end, like G2 is at the top, and they're not gonna lose to any of these teams. But I still feel like it's just because they do. Like, let's say Fnatic are like, if Origin is the smart team, then they can beat teams because they're smarter, and then Fnatic is maybe more like these. They make plans before the game and they execute on this and they kind of try to snowball the game like this. But G2, I think, could just do all of these elements and put it together, which makes them the best team, So yeah, that's kind of my line of thought.
Sure. I mean, that's the interesting thing to me about, as you say, these three, because these are the three realistically you expect to see late in the playoffs. Like, it'll be a big upset if there isn't. If you look, obviously, with the new format for the LEC, where the winner of the G2 OG game just waits in the final and then the loser goes down and plays basically the third place game. The interesting thing there is, like, personally, I think G2 will win any of the series anyway. But anyway, in a world in which G2 wins the first one, if Origin just beat whoever and went back to the final, I'd really love to see that final, because I'd like to see what would happen if you play a second best of 5 against someone you've just played. If anything, that plays into the wheelhouse of what you were describing as their strength, Mickey. But the thing is, they might have to beat Fnatic first. And as you say, if Fnatic in that series is better, then there is no rematch. So I think it's definitely interesting, because that's why actually the result of this first match is probably so essential in that regard, as to whether we ever get to see OG versus Fnatic.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like the other way around as well. Like, let's say, like, I mean, G2, but if I can just think, like, if Origin can beat G2 in a best of 5 first time, and then they have to do it again in a final, I think that would be also, like, crazy interesting if they could do it twice,
Yes.
So, yeah, you can put it that way as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, out of all of these matchups, Origin versus G2 is going to be, like, the closest one each time, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I think, like, sure, like, let's say it's like a 60-40 matchup for G2. So maybe they can lose to Origin once, or like in a best of 5, But will it actually happen 2 times best of 5? Because then maybe it isn't 60-40 for G2. Like, maybe then Origin is actually just better, for example.
Maybe they're just lucky.
What was good there was, right?
They had to win 6 games.
What was good there, by the way, guys, was that even though Sprattle was just using that as an example there, like when he said 60-40, he meant roughly, but then he was like, but what if they would win 2 games in a best of 5? It's like, that is literally mathematically what should happen if they're actually 60-40. But okay, whatever, we'll ignore that. That was just unfortunate. Okay, that was just unfortunate. It doesn't matter. It wasn't relevant to the point. We got your point that you were making. So okay, let's talk about some of the other matchups then, because I actually think it's more interesting to just talk about the matchups specifically rather than the team on their own, because we spent the whole split talking about the team on their own. Yeah. So what about the Fnatic matchup against Vitality then? Because if you're going to set it up that way, Veteran, surely this is the other team that has been really good at setting up all the early game and then being able to execute on it. At least until the last few weeks, admittedly.
I feel like, I think the reason that they lost this past week is because that system that we've talked about with like multiple players on here of how they play jungle and how it's very different to like a lot of other teams. Like Moli just tries to kind of sit on your face the whole game. He got 2 not optimal matchups to do that on this week, and he got shat on by 2 rookie junglers, and then Vitality didn't really know what to do because they never got the lead that they're used to being able to get through their solo lanes. And because they've been figured out more or less at this point, I'm actually really confident that Fnatic will come in with the appropriate game plan and destroy them. But I could be wrong, but I highly doubt that. I think it's like a really free game for Fnatic, especially the way that they play.
Okay.
I think for me it was a bit weird that Fnatic chose Vitality, because I think last year, Reckless said that Vitality is like the biggest like random team coming into like best of 5 because they have a lot of maybe cheese prepared.
Sure.
And I think in they have 2 weeks? No, they have 1 week. Yeah, they have 1 week of prep. I think.
They have 2, right?
Actually, they had 2. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
So they could actually fix some of the issues that they had after like Jizuke got sick and didn't play for a while, and they got a lot worse. And I think if any team out of Splice, Vitality, and SK could beat Fnatic, I think they could they could maybe beat them.
Yeah, I think it's either them or SK, and it's just
Yeah.
I mean, Fnatic are just they're saying it themselves, that these teams are like, I mean, they don't really think Vitality is unpredictable, but I think so.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I think, like, the way I see it is Fnatic should feel confident about their bot lane, because their bot lane has been playing really well recently, and Vitality bot lane has not been performing very well, I would say.
Sure.
So I think they're feeling confident there, but I'm not sure if they should feel like too confident, because this is also the bot lane that can play mages, and they were like one of the better teams last summer. So if Vitality actually prepared something like this, it could catch Fnatic off guard, and I think then they will not be able to like insta reply, like, they could lose a game and it could change the entire big ban, and it could just throw them off their comfort zone kind of. So I'm not sure why they're like super confident, because if this happens, I think it could like spice up the matchup for sure.
I think Reckless specifically said that they didn't want to go with SK because they couldn't really predict Selfmade. And I think that's really, really telling about how they view Vitality, because they're viewing Vitality as a team that you can actually beat through their jungler, and I think that they are completely on the money. And I do disagree that you should be more scared of Vitality in a best of 5 series if they're coming out with cheese, because there's only so much cheese you can come out with. They couldn't even make it through the group stage without all of their cheese picks being figured out. So, and that is just essentially a bunch of best of ones ad nauseum, and they had to play 2 games versus each team. So I'd be very confident, even if Vitality take an early game off Fnatic, that Fnatic will just bounce back and they will reassess and they will end up beating them. I think that this team is like a version of Schalke and Misfits, where it just took a lot longer for people to get how to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically Fnatic is going to win the series, but I will not. I think, okay, like if it's a 3-0, then I think Vitality just didn't show anything new, and then they just, they got read like a book and they lost. Just like Fnatic expected it to go down, But I think they will put up a fight and they will bring out something new to make it a bit interesting,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I realistically think the Fnatic will win it as well, because I think they're just a deeper team, like they have more depth,
I think also,
Yeah, go on.
No,
let
you
me
can
keep
go.
If Vitality is able to actually get some of these games where they get the early advantage, they're in lead, is Fnatic actually a good team at adapting in those scenarios, do you think?
have they actually done that yet?
I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, if they can actually adapt and like just go next game and figure shit out instantly.
Historically speaking, Fnatic are kind of in a similar position where they haven't really won a game in the second half of the split where they didn't have a strong early advantage. They don't necessarily have like the strongest early advantage, but they've never had like a deficit in any of these wins that they had early game. So that's a really interesting question. The only reason that I would hesitate to just say that then it's entirely in Vitality's favour, because again, Fnatic looks like a different team almost every week.
Sure.
Like, it's really well progressed like I haven't seen on any other team, but apparently it's questionable who gets coach at the split when this is actual definite verified progress that we're seeing here. I think also just on the praise of Vitality, like a lot of people when they're making these like top 3 AD lists are missing out on Attila, whereas I actually think Attila's actually been playing really consistently, with the exception of that Vayne game, for the majority of the split, and I'm actually kind of surprised I don't see his name more often, because I think him plus Jizuki plus Kabushard are such a solid core that has allowed their junglers to play this whole sit on the enemy's face playstyle, which obviously collapses when you're leasing into Selfmade's Rex site, and then you're like 3 levels down and it doesn't matter anymore. But I think that guy deserves a bit more praise than he should get. But Reckless is obviously better, and I think the bot lane as a whole for Fnatic is so much better.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I mean, I think I wouldn't put him top 3, but I think top 5 is fine, because I think there's just better ADs, I think. Like, I think Reckless, Upset, Perks, Patrick, I think they're all better.
Yeah, that's a solid top 4 actually. That's a
That's
solid.
3, no?
That's
No,
four.
he's 4.
Okay. No,
Perks, Patrick, Upset, Reckless.
Alright.
That's a solid top 4.
But I think it's the good part of their bot lane, because usually if their bot lane loses, it's actually running it down. So
You
Yeah.
need to
it's-
enter my. Yeah, go on, finish.
I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty consistent. So I'll give him that.
You need to enter my Twitter mentions at some point, because so many people keep saying that Kobe should be top 3, and it's blowing my mind the more I see that.
It's like people, how is it in Season 9, people are still watching the AD carry right-click the people in the team fight, get a kill on the scoreboard and go, he's carrying the team fight. It's like, is he? Isn't that literally what he does? Isn't that literally what AD carries do?
I can I see your point, because I heard it all last year as well with my 2 carries, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think it's also so hard to judge AD carries on anything else. Like,
sure.
You have laning phase, but that's also mostly mirrored on the supports, like in most matchups at least. And after that, it's like, yeah, sure, how do you play mid game? And it's dictated by your support, jungle, mid, everyone, you know. It's like the fucking AD has like one job, and it's just kill shit in team fights and don't fuck up. It's like, yeah, okay.
Sure.
So, yeah.
The problem is,
I mean, like, Kobe is good at this, so.
Yeah, here's the thing. He's done his job. Certainly, I'd even say for his own career, he's played pretty well. It's just that, like, one of the weird things about the fact that people are hyping him so much is, like, if you look at his team, I don't really think there was any one player was popping off every game, and it's certainly not like his lane was just the best or anything. So I just find it a bit weird that, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's just people saw, like, didn't he have 12 kills in a game? It's like, that, it is the whole season, mate, not just one game we're giving the award for.
I mean, I have to say, because the word consistency is what Riot are basically ascribing to Kobe, but I don't think I've seen a laning phase where this guy hasn't horribly messed up in one way or another, including both games this weekend. It's really strange to me that people are labeling consistency onto him, because like he's able to farm in mid game to Vayne to 2 items and then win every team fight when he has a Zir, Poppy, Braum, and his team is absolutely amazing. Who could have thought it? Like, but he's not consistent in the early laning phase unless you're saying that he is like consistently bad, and they are constantly playing behind on tempo because of it.
But
So
I think
Right, come on, Mickey. Come on, it's your old mate. Come on, come and defend him here. Tell us some bullshit. Come on.
okay. I mean, I agree that they don't win lane, but I think they're both good players, but I think they really work together well. I think, for example, when they played us, I don't really think they had like a clue about how to play the matchup. I think the matchup was Galio, Kai'Sa into Thresh Sivir, which they should be able to push throughout the whole game. But somehow we just had the push, and I think they just are not on the same page, I think they're all good they're both good individually, and that's why I think they lose so many lanes, because I think they just don't know the matchups well, or don't read them. If maybe they're first timing it, you know, they can't like imagine how it's gonna go.
Yeah, could I ask, like, maybe it's gonna be off topic, but I think it's pretty interesting that you said that they're not on the same page, because I think, and then that they're good individual players, but I feel like this is like the opposite of SK bot lane, because I feel like these 2 players aren't that strong individually, but their bot lane is like, they're synergized, which makes them a solid bot lane. So it's quite interesting how that can work, I guess.
Yeah, because I think SK bot lane is for sure better 2v2 in lane, because they're usually on the same page, and they whenever they flash in, they both do it at the same time, and they usually get a kill, and they're both like aggressive. So I think
I actually brought this up to you before Sprattle, but I actually do think Crownshot's actually quite good. I think that out of the rookie AD carries, I think he's the better one. But on the topic of like working well together mattering so much, both Jessica and Mystiques are suddenly winning lane now that they have made that support change, for example. So it obviously impacts a lot if you're like both on the same page, and these 2 guys just happen to work much better together than Jessica and like the 4-year veteran at this point of Kasing were able to do so.
Could be more than 4, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot more.
There was that 1 year in like the fucking wilderness of playing for Red Bull or whatever. I'm not sure that should count towards those years, you know. LCS years only, I'm afraid.
But like, I think that's a really good example of where like the synergy matters like so much in this regard, and I do agree that both Kobe and Norskeren are strong players individually, at least have shown that they can be strong, but there is a point where they're losing laning. Like, it's not just that they're not winning, they're losing laning phase with really basic mistakes so consistently that I don't understand what people mean when they're saying consistently unless they mean it ironically. Like, it does blow my mind eventually.
I mean, I think Kobe is consistent at like usually farming up without dying too much, and being like having good positions in team fights and hitting whenever he can.
Sounds like a perfect Sivir player.
Yeah, I mean, when he played Sivir against us, for example,
yeah, exactly.
Didn't really die, and just like threw some pizzas and we all died.
Exactly. That's the dream. Exactly. Yeah.
I was really hungry for the pizza. I was 0-9.
he's like the guy, the Uber Eats guy, who doesn't even come up to the door. He just sits in the car and waits for you to come over to it. It's like, what the fuck? You're supposed to deliver this shit. Like, no, I'm in the safety. I need to be able to get out any moment I need to. Right, okay, we've already started previewing this because this is obviously the other matchup. So let's get the initial thoughts then, right? promisq, who actually wins this matchup, Splice versus SK?
I'm gonna go with Splice, I think, because I feel like it's also just like we were talking about consistency, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna like use as an argument. I think they're just way more consistent, but that could be like their downfall. Maybe they're too consistent that they don't show enough, and maybe then SK can win because they are not very consistent, I think, and they don't win games through like fucking smooth game playstyle. They like to make explosive plays and stuff like this. But I'm not sure if they can win late game because it's gonna come down to late games. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think Splice is gonna win it, but yeah, that's my initial thoughts at least.
Yeah, I think also it's gonna. I think it's pretty 50-50. I think better jungle AD will win, and it's probably gonna be like.
Honestly, like I think self-made man this guy can really fucking pop off and make a big difference, and it's just gonna come like what type of day he has, like how much he brings to the table on the day, and I guess it's only SK that has a few rookies for playoffs. I think Splice all went playoffs. Yeah, they did not
except for Humanoid, but yeah.
Yeah, true actually. So yeah, maybe there's some nerfs there as well for SK that might not work in their favor, but don't think so honestly. Especially not for self-made. I really don't think nerfs is gonna get to this guy at least, and he's the one who has to carry. So
yeah.
I think Splice win. Actually, I was going to say SK initially, but now I thought about it a bit more, and I think Splice win. Because I do agree it's going to come down to late game, and when it comes down to late game, Splice basically only draft for late game, and they have found out that the meta right now really favors some heavy disengaged champions. Like if Humanoid gets a Zero, it's basically over at that point. Like they're going to create enough space for Kobe later on, and they're going to be able to stall out the game to the point they're at least good at that. Even if their resource management is atrocious, but it doesn't have to be top tier if you're just piling all the resources onto a hyper carry for Kobe. And SK have also been winning with hyper carries and stuff, but it has basically just been self-made. And the thing with Splice is that they at least come in with really strong, quite creative game plans, even if they don't necessarily execute the game plan properly. So I think they could probably conceivably come in with a plan to prevent self-made from fucking their shit up for the next 30 minutes like he has been doing to most teams in almost every single one of their wins. And if he does that, then I don't think Crownshaw's going to be able to be the threat that he has been in both their victories recently. Late game, like I imagine they whip out a Jinx ban immediately, for example. Like I imagine they actually target Crownshot in ban phase and then they target self-made strategically. That's at least how I would start approaching if I was making a game plan against SK right now. So I'm actually going to predict that Splice win. I also think playoff series kind of favor them. Not on the strategic level. I think the strategy is going to be the same, and I think they're going to play the same as they do in regular split. But because I think that when you get so mentally weary, you can really fall into Splice's permanent collapses much easier than you otherwise would. So,
yeah, if I could just go back, because I think it's kind of, if you look at the more if you break down every player pound for pound what each team brings, I think the difference is probably going to be in top lane. Because I think Mishishachi versus Verlib, and I think that matchup is the heaviest difference in skill. But still we say that self-made has to carry to win the game. But I feel like if Verlib can match Vishy well, it can also be really good for them. Because as we spoke about earlier, bot lane SK is a very well synced bot lane, and maybe that's one of the weaknesses of Splice bot lane, even though they're good players. So I think they can get leads from their bot lane. And Pyrion has been pretty solid. I haven't followed them that much, but it seems that a lot of other mid laners rate him highly, at least, maybe top 5.
Sure.
So I think SK for sure has what it takes to take down Splice as well. So yeah, I just wanted to say it.
I would come back on that with the fact that every time I've seen Werlip have impact as being on one of these super strong split pushers. Either he'll get Jaxel, for example, when he was playing Yorick. Also against Splice, actually. He played Yorick against Splice, and Splice had a specific strategy against the Yorick as well. And the problem is that this guy's timings, whenever he crashes the wave, seem to be complete opposite of what you should really do. And a team like Splice will always punish you for stuff like that. That's what they're really good at punishing. I actually think Werlib's one of the areas where they're going to end up losing the game, possibly. Because I also question how Werlib's if that's going to improve or not by playoffs, particularly after the first few games. I can only imagine it gets worse.
Yeah, I think the only way SK kind of win is if they put Whirlyball on a tank and try to snowball bot side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be Poppy versus Poppy or some shit. Like,
Yeah.
both players are gonna get Poppy.
Poppy.
Like, somehow it's gonna be.
Sion, Cho'Gath, Maokai.
Yeah.
Give
Okay.
those jumps.
Right, Veteran. I just at this point in the show, I wanted to actually potentially trigger you by pointing out some tweets. I don't know if you saw them that Peter Dunn, obviously member of the coaching staff. Did you see these tweets that I'm referring to, Veteran?
I saw, yeah. I actually think I quoted you in one of the
Okay,
responses.
so basically, I'll basically read the tweets out quickly for other people.
God.
So what happened was, initially Peter, who obviously was a coach of the Splice team, and now there's this guy Duke who's taken over that role primarily, was saying that he doesn't think that Duke, as a coach, was getting enough credit in terms of being considered potentially coach of the split. And one of the reasons he said was like, you know, it's a rookie coaching split, blah, blah, blah. Then he says, you know, this is a team with 3 new players, including 1 rookie, with 3 players under 20, and yet they finished the season tied for 3rd, 1 game from 2nd. And then he says, Splice have the 2nd best early game in the league after G2 by goal difference at 15 minutes, and continue to be good late with a clear identity despite losing 3 veterans. And he then basically, the next tweet basically says, like, the part of what annoyed him is this notion that if people talk about Origin, they say how they're, you know, a methodical, macro-focused, very like the Koreans, you know. Meanwhile, if they talk about Splice, they say they're slow, dull, paint by numbers, and lack innovation. And he says it's crazy. So this sounds like a perfect trigger for you, Veteran, because come on, what would you say about this topic?
I mean, the difference is every single team manages to get ahead of them on tempo early game, almost every single game, sometimes by Splice's own design. I will not deny that they probably have more gold coming in because Xerxes basically never sets up his bot lane for a good back, never sets up his top lane for a good back, and Humanoid's playing with 0 river pressure while he's AFK farming the entire game. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing better than the enemy team early game when the enemy team is able to get control over river, control over neutrals, get the first swap off, or you somehow in the points where you do have tempo and actually give them a tempo swap somehow. And they've opted into stuff like this so many times, and they always end up playing a deficit, trying to defend their red side jungle, also with terrible coordination. Like there was one point where Xerxes was farming Krugs, Norscaron went to ward out Wraiths. He sees 3 of them move in, and then Xerxes moves to pink Tribrush while these guys are just chasing Norscaron, and Norscaron's trying to move up to Krugs, and he's just like, it's so uncoordinated, it makes no sense to me when they could just be grouping and clearing their red side vision with Vayne. It made absolutely no sense to me, and this is really typical of them. Like, they are always in these kind of situations, but what always ends up happening is that eventually they figure out the kind of setup that their team comp is supposed to do, and eventually they do outscale, and they draft really strong champions to prevent the enemy team closing out games. But they have not shown anywhere near the level of development for like Fnatic, for example, because every issue I just said with Splice was the same issue week 1. Like, this team has not like heavily improved, and I have no idea what point he's trying to make with the players under 20. By the way, players under 20 are sometimes.
I know it's a bit weird how he said that.
Really
like,
strange.
I don't know if you're aware, Peter, but like Uzi I was at fucking Worlds. He was like 15 in the final, mate. Like that's kind of a whack one there.
He
Like,
claims to have worked with Uzi at Worlds, so I also have no idea why he would say this. Like, young talents are really strong. We don't say that Mikyx could be really fucking good, but you know, he's a bit young.
give him
so
a few years.
We have to wait
Still
until
under
he's
20.
Miffy's age, you know? Like, and when he's Miffy's age, maybe finally come out of the fold. Like, that makes no sense to me also. But it should just be patently. And also, Origin play really well because they do almost everything that I just said, and they do almost everything I just said methodically, and you can see the difference in movements between them and between Splice. Splice slowly die until a point where they end up winning, and sometimes it's not even slow. And
But which team?
Yeah,
sorry.
go on. No,
Yeah.
just go on.
Yeah, go on.
I just want to just like see, because which team would he? If Splice is a top 2, then there's only one team that's better, and is it Origin or G2? Because it should be both, no? So
I don't think you said anything about being top 2. Or
No,
whatever
just
that was.
gold lead.
Yeah, he just meant that they're second best in terms of the gold lead, and he was trying to imply that their early game was good. I mean, my obvious comment I made when I saw this tweet was like, I don't know why the fuck anyone would brag about the early game of their team if they then, by their own admission, have no fucking mid game and then win. Where at the end of the game they almost can't lose, and the enemy team ints into them in team fights. Like, I wouldn't brag about the coaching of that team if I were you on that angle. Like, I'd go with the angle of what he set up first, that young players, rookies, like we improved. That's great for the coaching angle. I wouldn't brag about your team not having a mid game, which is even worse than not having a mid game, because you have the edge, according to you, even though, as Veteran pointed out, having more gold isn't the same as having a winning early game. Just saying.
I also want to point out, just statistically, if he wants to break out the statistics, yes, Peter, you guys have like a really high gold lead early game, and Xerxes has the highest of any jungler by a significant margin. But you guys have the longest game time in the LEC by 2 minutes, and you're the only LEC team that has a longer average game time than the North American average. The only one. So if you really want to go with the gold lead thing, then by all means go for it.
Because the thing is, I don't hate on Peter Dunn. Every time I've ever seen him comment, except on his team, I find him very knowledgeable, very insightful. I like his perspective. It's just, this is like a classic example of where if you're a coach and you're too close to the situation, obviously you even made the fucking Kool-Aid. Of course you've drunk it. Like, you've just gone totally in on it. Like, put it this way, I mean, obviously you can't do this because he'd know the teams, but I'd love to do some sort of LS type challenge and take a bunch of scenarios and be like, which was it, Peter? Was this Origin successfully battling back in the mid game here? Was it Splice? Which one do you think? I think he'd know. I don't think he'd be like, I can't tell. They both appear to be like Season 5 SK Telecom to me. Incredibly controlled, methodical, and like, I don't think so, somehow. Come on. Like, this is a classic thing, by the way, that people who are like in-game leaders or coaches always do, which is you give them props for the areas they are good, and then you're like, but you obviously have a weakness here, and they're like, well, I'd contest that, actually. I think that's actually not a weakness. Like, come on, man. Like, so everyone has a weakness. Come on. It's unreasonable. Some would say unreasonable.
I thought I'd say, like, this is a little bit of a straw man. This is nothing to do with Peter at all, but like a lot of people, when I made the pro Youngbuck tweets, were like, surely he has to be punished for building that roster as well. If you're gonna say this, but the roster is fucking working, you idiots. Like, it's, even if I wouldn't have picked that mid lane, the roster is fucking working, and he got it working at the point where it matters. Just because it was a plug and play roster like Shulker's does not necessarily mean that he made a bad roster. His roster clearly has more longevity than Shulker's did. Yeah.
Yeah, I would even say that surely counts in his favour, because actually, by the logic you're talking about here, Veteran, he could have signed a well-known mid laner. He could have gotten someone already established. So, if anything, the fact he gambled on a rookie and it's worked, pretty sure that goes in your favour if you're a coach, doesn't it? At least by Peter's reckoning, anyway, if I can just refer back to that.
Yeah, but I think, like, you can also, like, obviously you can talk about all the teams and then you can, like, say what they're good at and bad at, but I feel like at the end of the day, having a coach award is just so fucking useless as well, because it's so hard to judge what a coach does, and every coach does different things for his team, so I don't know, like, the award in itself should be retired, I think. I mean, coach of the split does come down to coaches vote for their friends. Because also, by the way, if you think that every single team, when it's like the players vote and the coaches vote, that the players haven't just given it to their manager and be like, can you fill this out, absolute CBA? That happens on like a lot of teams. Like, the coach of the split award, though, is like really uniquely retarded, because it's basically just the best networked coach of the split almost every time. Or sometimes it will just be, well, this team did the best, so we'll just give it to them. So even though it's like my personal opinion that Youngbuck should get it, I wouldn't necessarily think that it counts so much if he does get it. I don't think he would think so either. And I think if you prescribe some sort of value on Coach of the Split awards, then your opinion should be immediately disregarded. Yeah, I mean, I could probably assume 4-5 people who deserves this award just like as much as the other guy. So it's like, yeah, if you get this award, you're probably a good coach, but it doesn't mean you're the best or you do anything better than anyone else. Honestly, like, I don't know, it's just a really troll award, honestly.
I can tell you,
nothing will ever beat when fucking Daylor won Player of the Week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Just want to bring that up because it did happen, so I'm going to mention it forever. There you go.
I can
It's your
tell you
fault,
right
Ryan.
now, because I know it becomes public eventually, but I'll tell you right now, Origin staff and Splice's staff will vote for each other 100%. Like, I guarantee you this right now. So.
Well, I mean, they have the same style, the same strengths. Why not make the same votes?
They talk to each other a lot. That's also a thing. So.
Fair enough. Right, what about this then? To talk a bit more about SK, right? Even though people make the meme that, like, better jungle difference decides the game, like, isn't that a massive part of why SK is even able to win these games?
Because of what? Because of their jungler? Or?
Yeah. By having, like, a significantly better jungler, or a jungler that has edges in all the games, pretty much.
Yeah, their jungler shits on almost every other jungler right now, and I think that's what makes them, like, stylistically really good against Vitality. But the thing is that I'm not sure how that's going to end up working versus Splice, because Splice have basically never really relied on their jungler anyway to get their leads or to get to the point where they end up winning the game. So I'm not sure if the jungle matchup is necessarily going to be something that they're not used to already.
I mean, I think I disagree with that one because I think Xerxes last summer, I think it was like, it was either spring or summer. I think it was summer, where Splice looked so bad, and it was basically because they didn't manage to, like, their jungler didn't work well with their mid top, I think, and then it clicked after like week 4 or some shit, and then Udwan and Xerxes was just like murdering every top jungle, and then they were just good again. So I think they kind of rely on Xerxes to perform well.
Last split, I definitely agree with you. Like, I brought that up before, that last split, last split and the split before that, actually, both times they tried doing anything but play around Odo.
Yeah, spring split was just like a shit show, but I think in summer they really they won their games through Xerxes and
Odo.
And Udwan.
Yeah.
And I think it was mostly Xerxes and not Udwan.
It was same in Swing Split as well, that they just randomly started playing split pushes on Odo because they started doing that both times against us. We were always the first game that they decided to switch to playing really hard around Odo 1. And I definitely agree with you there. I just haven't seen that this split at all. And they haven't ever, like, suddenly switched Vizzy on, like, actually no, they did 1 week. 1 week he played like Aatrox and he played Kennen, and he still didn't know how to side lane properly, and I'm not even sure I'd put that on Vizzy. I think I would just put that on the system that they have by which to play around side lanes, to be honest.
I'm not gonna sit there. Yeah. I'm not gonna sit there and say I watched 18 games of Splice this
no one should.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either. But yeah, I didn't do it. But I still feel like Xerxes is really consistent, and he plays a huge part in their best or like top 2 early game, whatever, you know. Like, I think he's an integral part of the team.
He gives
for
the
sure.
gold lead, yeah.
And I mean, his role, it's just
he gives a gold lead.
Jungle role, like jungle is really important as well. So
what I do when I watch the Splice flood is I just look at the running time already. I go, right, 42 minutes, and then I skip to about like 37 minutes, and I go, oh, that's the team fight they win. Oh, nice. And then I just go, right, next VOD. Time to watch. Like, that's the difference. At least if I watch an SK game, I watch the early game, don't I? Want to see if anything happens. Might be interesting.
I mean, I understand that, but, like, to come back on what Strasser is saying, he definitely does contribute to their gold lead early on, and I will never deny that. But that's because his, like, first clear is always obscenely safe, and all of his lanes get dicked for it. He does not do anything for his lanes that, like, Cole does, that Jankos does, that Selfmade obviously does, that Casual does, that Memento does. Those are, like, the 5 junglers that I think are playing, like, really, really well right now. Xerxes doesn't do any of that. Yeah. And so if you shut down Xerxes, it's not that their laners are suddenly going to be worse off than they were before, because they're kind of used to playing about a jungler early game right now anyway. I think Selfmade will dick their laners. Like, the small opportunity he found early game to destroy Jizuki in the Vitality game, for example, is not something that a lot of junglers, except maybe Jankos actually, would immediately point out and set up for. But I don't think it will be like straight jungle on jungle, I'm 3 levels ahead of you matchup. I think Xerxes will still be ahead, and I don't think that SK should target that.
Okay. I will just say, by the way, Veteran, I do appreciate the fact that you don't mention Broxer whenever you list off all those junglers, just again to trigger all the Fnatic fans watching this episode, because
Mikyx,
logically... No, that's the thing. In their brain, though, remember, the Fnatic fan's going to go, but we won all the games, how can he not be the best jungler? It's like, well... I didn't say it. Veteran said it. So you already know how to hate him.
I
You do
still
it
think they're the
regular
best team. Like, this isn't a contradiction.
Okay.
The best team doesn't have to have all the best players.
I'm
So-
aware of that, but
So you
sadly,
think
I
they're
haven't been
better
able to
than
convince
G2
them.
then, or?
I think they could beat you the way that you guys have been playing the last 2 weeks. That's why I asked that question. And they have been constantly improving, so I cannot count them out. Because the Fnatic that plays is potentially going to look completely different from the Fnatic that plays now, given all of their trends. That's the problem. So I think that they could win. If you played Fnatic with Mikyx, if you played Fnatic that was playing last week, then I would imagine that you guys would still win. But we'll see the Fnatic that comes in playoffs. I think that Fnatic could probably end up just beating G2 straight up and winning the whole thing. But yeah, I have bias here because I want my predictions that I made really early in the split to be right. So
I could hear Mikyx sighing from the other room right there. That was a deep one.
You're the best support in Europe, so that's to Mikyx, by the way. So
I could figure that out.
You can settle for second place.
He's about 80% of the best support in Europe at the moment.
What?
He's about 80% of the best support in Europe at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
if he's not 100%, then it's irrelevant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. But actually, I think if I actually wouldn't get this injury, because every team has like some kind of problems, usually like team problems, either gameplay or like attitude or whatever, team conflicts. I think the only actual problem that we had in G2 was actually my wrist. And I think if we didn't have this problem, I would have no doubt in my mind I would for sure think we would win the split, and no other team would have a chance, like a slight chance of actually winning against us. But now that actually we didn't practice that much last few weeks, I'm still confident that we're gonna win the whole thing, but I'm not as confident. But yeah.
I mean, I've been in a lot of teams, and I've been in a lot of losing teams, so I know how team atmospheres goes down. But it's actually really unique, I think, what G2 has going on, because it's a long list of things you should do, which they actually do right, and what you shouldn't do, what they don't do. So yeah, I mean, I think it would take a lot to break this team down and make it not work together.
Here's the thing, just cause, listen, you know my personality. I'm obliged to say this, promisq, right? This isn't pure flame, but I'm just going to say it. On a purely technical basis, the G2 that you play for is also a losing team. That's just a fact. I'm not hating that. It's just a fact. I'm just saying. So
I mean, I think you would enjoy some backstage banter after the games, because it was a lot of #promisq effect.
Right, I see. Okay.
You lose the games instead of winning.
Oh, I like the way they don't even have fucking team spirit. They're just bantering him right after the game. That's pretty harsh. Europe's ridiculous, isn't it? I always wonder with Americans when some of the things they consider inner conflicts in teams. It's mate, you haven't even been born. Have you ever seen any of these teams?
I don't know. It's just funny, I think. It's good.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm down for that, as long as I can dish it back when it's needed.
Yes. Exactly. What is the actual situation then? Here's a question I have. So normally the good thing about the old playoff system is at least you know which teams to practice against depending on what side of the bracket you're on or who it's possible for you to play in the semi-finals. You have kind of your practice partners lined up. How do you decide who you practice against in this scenario? Since you guys are so many weeks out from playing, no one knows who you're going to end up playing next. You might obviously go to the final. How do you figure that aspect out?
Well, I'm not sure. You just have to ask our coach, but I'm pretty sure we can't play Origin and another team that that might
doesn't like Caps being in your lineup.
Yeah,
I thought that one. Yeah.
So I
figured that one was just listen. I figured that was taken for granted, Veteran. If you saw the way their owner was going fucking mental on Twitter.
But yeah, so we basically scrim all the teams except Origin.
Yeah, it's Splice, SK, Vitality.
Yeah.
That's it, no?
That's it.
That's it.
And I'm not sure actually, after when the last day of playoffs is, when there's only 3 teams, I'm not sure how that is gonna go. But
yes,
that would be
very interesting.
It might be hard.
Well, you can scrim your very, very well constructed academy team. There you go.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, that's true. Scrim academy.
I
Actually,
mean,
I think we
their
do
season is over, no?
quite a bit. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Okay.
but hopefully they will still be down to scrim us. At least they can play some games.
Okay. If you've played against Splice in scrims, do they have the same style in scrims? Do the games go forever there? Are they more proactive?
I mean, I can shine in and say I don't think scrims usually go that long anyways. So it's hard to play like 40-minute game scrims because usually you're not that like you're not just gonna sit there and fucking wait for 20 minutes if you lose early game or whatever. You're just gonna make it a banger. And if you're actually snowballing, I think you're actually like naturally like games are just faster in scrims. So I don't think they're as long as the stage games are versus Splice.
Yeah, there are very few teams anymore that will just like force you to play the game entirely out.
Right.
So,
No, you mostly just exit once you think that you've got too much of a lead at this point, so we just quit already.
I mean, I don't think there's many teams that actually pause like really early.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
There's just teams that like, okay, guys, let's do one more fight, and then the enemy just ends the game mid, you know. But I think one of the teams that are really good to scrim against that actually like play kind of like on stage and safe macro is like OllieJ. So I think they're like the best scrim partners. So kind of sucks you can't scrim them, but.
What about if you play scrims against Vitality? Like, what do they do? Because obviously, presumably, they don't do all these like one-off cheeses. So what the fuck do they do in their scrims?
Well, I think Lars will know that one. I didn't scrim them in a while.
Yeah, I mean it's the Cabo Short, I think. Cabo Show, I think. Like,
okay.
I mean, Cabo Short is crazy good, and Yasuke is pretty good still. I'm not sure how highly I would rate him, but probably top 4, top 5. But yeah, Cabo Short is crazy good, so they have that going for them. Yeah, Mowgli is quite solid, I would say. I haven't like seen them a lot as well, so can't give too many opinions.
I think if I don't know, you go first. Go first.
I mean, yeah. Also, out of all the teams in LEC that we scrimmed, Vitality is for sure like the one with the weirdest shit that they can actually pull off or that think of, and they're kind of annoying to scrim against. And I heard teams sometimes don't want to scrim them because the scrims against them are just like, yeah, so clown fiestas. And, I mean, not really sure if I would call that. They just do like some random shit. But yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say on the Cabo Shard point that if just purely in terms of how much individual value they bring to their team, with regards to everyone else on their team, if Selfmade doesn't get MVP, then Cabo Shard should probably get it because it's also basically the Cabo Shard show most games on the LEC stage as well. This guy's being absurdly reliable on stage. Like if you're gonna throw the consistency label at anyone, it's definitely on Cabo Shard.
Yeah.
This guy's basically never lost his team in the game.
I mean,
he's actually insane this split.
Yeah, that guy has my vote for sure. Like no doubt. Yeah, I don't consider like Selfmade a contender there. I think it's definitely Cabo Shard who deserves it. That guy is so fucking good right now.
If either of those two get it, there's like zero complaints on me.
I mean, the other one, and I can tell you, there's probably a good chance this guy's going to win, is Caps.
Yeah, but we can't vote for him because he's in our team.
Yeah,
sure. Veteran, you know the way these awards work, mate. The way you win the MVP award, it's funny that actually the criteria you just laid out is what people tend to use as the criteria for how they think of coach of the split, because they pick the coach that joined the bad team that's now really good. But what's bizarre is for MVP, they don't tend to use that logic. They tend to always use like who was the best player on the best team, and so by that logic, they'll give it to Caps.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Well, I'm not even sure if Caps is by performance the best player on his team.
I mean, if the LEC broadcast team do it, they'll say it's Wonder, but you know, I'm just going with what I think the fans will go with.
You can argue Wonder. I mean, I think in reality, you should probably dick yourself if you ever join G2 and expect to win MVP, because you've joined that team because you know every other player on that team is insanely talented. Yes. So it's, unless everyone else collapses, it's going to be really difficult, because like, everyone has shown an MVP performance at some point on that team. Like Mikyx versus in the first game against Splice when you were on Pyke, that was like definitely an MVP performance, probably the best support performance that you've seen from anyone this split. I know you're already on the show, but it seriously was like that good. Like everyone on that roster has shown an MVP performance at some point. Like Yankos versus Misfits, for example, is like comparable. Wonder in the last game versus Fnatic, you could say a similar thing. And like I haven't got to Caps yet, so it's you shouldn't really. If anyone on that team gets MVP, then you're hinting the award. I think players like Cabochard, players like Selfmade should be the ones talked about for the award.
Okay, let me give you a counterpoint then. Wouldn't the devil's advocate to this veteran be that someone would say a player like Caps doesn't even have to actually pop off in the game to have the intangibles you're talking about, value? What about the Caps effect? How the jungler plays around him, his champion pool, what's going to mean for your team with all the flex picks and stuff? Wouldn't someone say that's valuable?
There's nothing that you have just said that isn't applicable to every single player on that team. Is the problem. Like they all bring insane champion pool. They all bring insane freedom for their jungler. Like they all give the ability for flex picks. Like Mikyx is the guy that was playing support Scion non-stop for ages. And when Galio came out, he was basically sat there like, finally, people have caught up. You know,
after damage reduction was nerfed, after they removed damage reduction, playing it like.
Actually, it's so fucking weird. It's like so illogical how this happened.
That was crazy.
But yeah, like. Every single point that you could make to give Caps MVP on that team can be given to almost everyone else on that team. Is the significant problem with G2. So
thing is, I have to agree. I would personally go with Cabochard, especially because even though I do think it's a bit of an overrated aspect, like how well your team did, his team did also do pretty well overall in an overall split. Whereas since I know people do tend to do those votes, you have to like at least be on a top team. That to me kind of rules out Selfmade. I would say individually he deserves it, but his team didn't do that very well, and obviously was literally almost out of the playoffs. So by that logic, I think Cabochard's just like the convenient person to give it to. He fits all the criteria.
I would say most of the players on that SK roster shouldn't make playoffs ever. So the fact that they were even close, let alone actually qualified over really well-funded teams with really big names like Schalke and Misfits is like testament to how insanely good Selfmade is. I think everyone, including me, put them as one of the bottom 3 teams with Rogue like all the way down there.
I mean, I think it's like I don't really like this like. In general, I agree. I didn't put them highly, but I still feel like I think most players on this team deserve playoffs because I actually feel like they're pulling their load for sure. It's Selfmade show, but I still feel like especially Pyrion and Dreams are really like playing well, and they for sure deserve at least like the bottom as a duo. But I feel like Dreams also does a lot like on his own, you know, like not related to Crown Shot. So yeah, I mean, I think this team for sure deserves playoffs. Like. Schalke and Misfits do not deserve playoffs, for example, and those are the only other 2 teams you can make an argument for. So
here's the thing, I definitely agree with what you're saying there, promisq, but I would just say this, like maybe there's like a disconnect there between what Veteran said, because what I took Veteran to say was this, right? If we took those players on all those lineups, the 3 lineups you just said there, Schalke, SK, Misfits, if we took the players on paper and they weren't all on these teams, and we just said, you know, which lineup has like playoff quality, you wouldn't say the SK one because you'd go, you know, they're not that good. I would agree with you for exactly the reason you said. They obviously deserve it because, like as we said, most of the players played way above expectations, and they actually had a decent amount of cohesion for a team that looked like they were just put together by, I don't even know who the fuck put that lineup together, but whatever. They had coaching change throughout the split. By the way, I like that, by the way. On Listen Loco, when we were talking about like coaching the split, he goes, should SKs be coach of the split? I said, even their own fucking team doesn't agree that either of those guys are the coach of the split, you idiot. Like, I think that alone should automatically disclude you from the conversation, right? If you fire the coach of the split, I'm not sure he's the coach of the split, is he? But anyway, just pointing it out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my job to do that, you know, just to translate between the different perspectives.
I think for me, because you said Pyrion and Dreams, but I would say it's definitely so. I mean, you obviously said Selfmade as well, but I'd actually point to Crown Shot more than Dreams. So I do think that there's one really interesting thing that they do with support that most other teams weren't doing really early on, where he was basically always there for every Herald contest, and only OllieJ were really doing that with proper consistency early on. If I disregard Mikyx, because they actually were doing that from week 2 onwards. I think Crown Shot was really good and could potentially deserve it. But if you, like, as Thorin said, and this was my original point, like, if you were to just take all of these players and, like, remove them from this and take all of these players, most of SK's lineup would not be, like, the players that you would say go to playoffs, you know?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, you can put it this way. If any of these Misfits, Schalke, and SK change junglers in between each other, that the team that has Selfmade is probably going to make playoffs. You know, you can put it this way as well. Like, he's for sure the biggest difference maker. But I just don't want to discredit the other players on SK, because I
No,
feel
no.
like they're also pulling their load.
I mean, I would put it this way, to use the same terminology you did, like deserve, which is obviously like a loaded term, but okay. If we use the term deserve, like the Misfits players are probably better than the SK players, but Misfits absolutely do not deserve the fucking playoffs after that, even though you guys did try to give them that little boost with the free win on that last
I
one.
mean, yeah, it was just, they had no chance anyway.
You did your best. You did your best.
No, but they had no chance anyway, so mind as
It's
well.
true. It's true. I was just joking, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry. Because you know the best thing about that was I remember seeing, like, I'm trying to think, did you guys play them in the first game?
No, last game.
Second game.
That was right. Okay.
Wait. Oh, it's first. Oh, yeah.
What do you
No,
mean?
it was the
First
second
game of the day,
game.
or
No, you played Fnatic first, and then you played Misfits on the
Ah,
second day.
well,
You thought I meant on the day. Okay, right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because I remember like seeing all the tweets from their account, like, we won a game. It's like, yeah, did you know? You know.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
consolation
you beat someone who'd already completely qualified, and you couldn't qualify, and they had a different player in. Like, you know, how many more factors? At the end, what do you want them to do? Literally just like fucking not buy items or something.
They played
have to win
well
eventually.
the last game. So there's
They
that.
played well.
Yeah, they played okay.
Well, that was also the most pathetic thing, though, Mikyx, is like what they did was they were like, right, is our super team that costs fucking millions completely out the playoffs? Right, well, now there's no pressure. Let's show we can actually play League of Legends. Like, that's worse, if anything. That's worse if you play well. It is in a way, isn't it? You know, like, in a way, it kind of is worse. It's like it'd be better if you were just really bad the whole time. It was like, you know, the team just didn't work, whatever.
I do want to say... Oh, go on.
It's a motivational boost for summer. So they won the last game, so now they're stronger for summer. So they will crush summer.
Yeah, they have a win streak going into summer.
Yeah, that's true. Momentum is on
No
their
other
side.
team would have it like this.
Exactly. What do you think of that bot lane in Misfits? I mean, I know they're not a playoff team, but I thought I'd ask, obviously, since you have some history. What do you think of the bot lane in Misfits?
Mikyx, you can go, because you've actually played with Hans.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think.
And you scream them. I haven't really screamed them, so.
Yeah, I think. Well, I can always look for Hans because I actually played with him before, and I think Hans is, as a player, is really good individually and like laning phase wise. I think he's like really good in lane, but I think his champion pool is a bit small, and I think if you ban some champions, then you kind of have to fall on to some of his mediocre champs. And usually, if you don't play around them in bot lane, he's kind of lost or can't really dictate the game as if you like actually play around them. Because for the first 2 weeks, they actually played around bot lane really well, and they snowballed really easily. But yeah, I think for Gorilla, I was a bit surprised that he wasn't as insane as I thought he would be. And I think he was just like fine. He was mediocre, at least like laning phase wise and gameplay wise. But I don't know how much he like does in the team. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team has a lot of growing pains, and yeah, they have like a Korean as well. Just the single Korean as well could be pretty hard for him to like just get going. And yeah, I don't know. My opinion on the bot lane is probably one of the weaker, but I still feel like it's so weird how people can like rate players, because last summer everyone was like hyping Hans up like to the sky. You know, he was like the best AD carry, and then I refuse to believe that this guy is like a bottom 3 AD carry right now, just because he didn't get the team results and didn't play well as a team. So it's like it's hard to judge them as individuals, and I don't know. I still have like the benefit of the doubt, or whatever you say, for Hans Sama. Like, I'm really fucking sure that this guy could just turn up in summer and be a top 3 AD carry again, which he was last year. So I mean, yeah, for sure his champion pool has been kind of exposed, I guess. Like he carries really hard when he is on Draven or Kalista, but I feel like but I feel like just because he's like, let's say he's like one step like extra above the others when he plays these champions, I don't think it should take anything away if he's just playing like a really good Tristan or a really good Ezreal, for example, which I think he probably would do. You know, it just means he doesn't hard carry as much. So yeah, I mean, I think he's still a really good player, and I think he can still be top 3 for sure. Like if Misfits just plays better as a team, he's probably a top 3 AD carry. You know.
I also think like from playing in Misfits last year after like 9-0, I think the problem was, I think that was also the problem this split, is that after they had like a good start, for example, they, instead of playing towards their strengths during the regular split, they started like working on their weaknesses, for example. Because I think last year, for example, we played a lot of Yasuo Aurelia at the start with Senkooks, and it went really well. We were like nano and stuff like that. And after we lost one game, we kind of started swapping around our playstyle and tried to play more to top lane and like not as much tanks, some split pushing stuff like that, and just like trying out stuff. I think this split was kind of same, and they started off as playing towards only bot lane for the first 2 weeks, and then after week 3 or 4, I remember they started picking like Aatrox top, Kennen top, and started playing towards top side. And I think instead of playing to their strengths, they started to like try to work on their weaknesses, which kind of, I think, not sure if it's the players or the coaching stuff, but they kind of then forget how to go back on their strengths, because they kind of start playing with the new
really
style for a bit.
It's really interesting because Misfits the year before that, so now we're going like 2 years ago when they qualified for Worlds. That team was like 7-7 in the regular split when it was still like group stages and stuff, and then they barely qualified for playoffs, and then in playoffs they were suddenly playing really, really well.
Yeah.
And the way that the coaching staff was framing that in interviews and stuff was that they were working on their weaknesses, and they were working to be like a complete, multifaceted team. Was basically how they were trying to approach it. So what you're saying is that they literally played to their strengths until they figured they had a playoff spot, and then were like, all right, fuck all that, and then they just played like a completely different style for ages, and then found like that they were kind of forgetting the last one. That actually explains a lot of how this like Misfits cycle has kind of gone.
Yeah, but like every team wants to be like the perfect team, you can play around every lane and stuff like that.
Sure.
But with some players, it doesn't really work.
No.
And I think Misfits is one of those teams.
Yeah.
And I also think, for example, 2 years ago, and also last year, when we went to the players, for example, last year we had like one certain playstyle, which was pick Kalista. We practiced a lot of Kalista and Draven, tank top lane, supportive mid laner like Galio, Lulu, whatever. And then we played Kalista a lot and just went 20-minute Nash, because our mid game and late game were kind of bad, so we couldn't close out games, as some people might see. So we just went Kalista, Cho'Gath, 20-minute Nash, and then try to end the game. If it doesn't work, well, FF. And then we kind of went into this. We kind of went with a plan like this in playoffs. So, and then we 3-0'd G2 with this plan. But then Fnatic actually studied our games, and then they just banned Kalista, Draven, Rakan, and they kind of knew what we were gonna do. And like for this last week of before playoffs, we started like playing more side lane ADs, so we were just like camping in bushes on side lane, and it got G2 off guard. But Fnatic actually watched the replays and actually picked up on it, so they were kind of aware that we were camping in bushes. And I think 2 years ago also, they started playing a lot mid more, like Power Weevil and Maxlor. They're playing like Zek, I think, and just ganking mid perma. I think it was against UL or something, or against Fnatic, I think, as well. And yeah, that's why I think they were good in playoffs, because they had like one certain thing they were practicing.
Yeah, I mean, playoffs was when they were just like first picking Tristana and stuff. No, I think that was what they were.
That's what was that Tristana was really, really OP. I think Reckless was also spamming, but actually I don't remember. I can't comment on that.
It was Spring Split, I think, but it's always OP. So
yeah. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Reckless will always
at least in Reckless hands. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. One support we would be remiss not to bring up then on this episode is obviously going to be Mithy. So after last year, where obviously Americans were memeing on him, saying he's shit, which is obviously the most unacceptable set of circumstances. What have you thought of Mithy back in Europe this split? What do you think, Mikyx?
I think at the start, when I played against him in solo queue, he was really fucking bad. But then he spent a lot of solo queue, and also he like tried for his life and like played a lot of in-houses, like even with challenger players, if like LCS players didn't wanna play in-houses, and he was like really spamming a lot of games, and he actually got a lot better. And at start of split, he was like still had some end games, but towards like in the middle, he started becoming really good. And right now he's like back to his G2 Mithy era, I guess. He's pretty good now.
OG Mithy even.
Yeah, OG Mithy.
Season 5 Mithy.
Yes.
Hey. Season 5. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm really surprised how this guy has managed to get back up to the top, because I think that's where he is right now. I don't know. I think the supports in general are pretty good in EU. Like, I think it's really, like, everyone always says like, yeah, supports are so fucking bad in Europe and shit like this. But I don't know. I think people could probably still say the same, but I think
Wait a minute, what are they comparing that to? Like Korea and stuff? They better not be comparing that to NA.
I mean,
Europeans
they're
fucking kill
comparing it
NA
to
supports.
but
They
both
just mean compared to
people-
the best, right?
I think they're honestly comparing it. I think they're comparing it to the other roles. Like,
Oh,
people
right.
see,
I
like,
see what you mean, yeah.
they're like, there is like, okay, there is only one guy who makes like flashy trash plays. Yeah, so he's the only good support, because that's like how you play other roles. For example, like you make a lot of plays, but it's like, as a support main, when I see this, it's like, that's not at all how I rate a support, if it's good or not. Like, it's such a small aspect of the game. And I think, that's just Reddit, you know.
I mean, you raise a really good point though, because like orgs are obviously willing to take a risk on like EU rookie mids now, because players like Caps, players like Jizuki have really pushed that there's really strong rookie talent if you gamble on a mid laner. But support hasn't had that for a while. And this would have been the year where that kind of thing would have actually been able to take hold, because players like Labov, for example, are starting to finish school and come of age. But now that franchising is in effect, they can't just straight up qualify, and orgs haven't been shown the way that they were shown for the mid lane role and for the AD carry role, that there is rookie talent there. So I really don't like that situation.
There's 4 Koreans in the EU right now taking my job, you know. So
the two most expensive ones didn't even qualify. So, well, what it actually might be one of the most expensive ones, because they had to pay for the buyout from G2. So,
but yeah, like back to like just to wrap up on the Mitty point, because I rate this guy really highly right now, and it's mostly like mechanics is a small part of the game, even though I think he has picked it up from his last year where he was really like bad mechanically. It's like you could really see it, but he still has the brains, and I feel like he's able to enable the brain in a way, you know. He's actually able to do a lot of the calls and map movements, because he has better teammates maybe, and he's also playing better individually. So I'm really impressed, because I didn't think it would happen this fast, because it happened like even like first game of the split he played Morgana Draven, which is obviously a hard winning matchup, but he was like stomping this guy, like,
he was
and
really
I was like,
smurfing. He was really actually both games against us. He was like really smurfing.
Yeah, and
actually, I think his plan for the offseason was to make me think he's really bad, and then I would underestimate him, and then he would just like fucking official games.
The long con. He's giving me the rope up.
So I mean, that was just like a statement to me, like, holy shit, he can actually do this already. Then, and the season is like 8, 9, 10 months long. So he's just gonna get better and better. So, yeah, I mean, we're only in March right now, and he's really good. So I'm really excited to see what he's gonna do in playoffs and in summer.
I've made this point before, because obviously I agree that Miffy is doing like phenomenally well. But like I think the best explanation for how he managed to improve so fast is more to take it as, why did he do worse in the NA? And then you remember, because we know this for a fact from that TSM team and from multiple interviews and from multiple sources, that Miffy literally had to learn jungle, started playing jungle in solo queue specifically so that he could teach his jungler how to play jungle. He had to take that level of responsibility on himself. And as Mikyx was saying, he spammed solo queue to get good again, and I think it's more that he's just gotten back to the level that he was somewhat at, just because obviously the last split with G2 wasn't like the best split from him, but he's being able to get back to the level that he used to be at, because he hasn't had to take that kind of burden on himself, because, you know, Cold is very smart, NukeDuck's very smart, Alphari is very smart. It's like, well, every other lane but his own lane, he doesn't have to worry about them anymore. He can just focus on bot lane with Patrick, and like he for me, I always figured that he would end up improving like this, because I at the very least prayed to the gods that the reason that he had the downturn NA was just because he wasn't able to practice his own role, and that's an absolute advantage.
I mean, I don't really agree, and that's the thing I find impressive, because I feel like he was declining in, what was it, 2017? Like, I already felt like then.
Wasn't that good. Yeah.
And then it's like, I felt like he had already started declining then, even though he was still like, I still thought he was top 3, because like I still he's never gonna lose his brain, you know, he's never gonna lose the smartness about the game. So that's what I find so impressive, that I don't think it was just like, yeah, he was bad in NA and now he's good in EU again. I think it was coming before that he started declining, but now he's just back. Like, I think it's way better now than it was in 2017, to put it this way, and that's before he even left NA. So
I'll come back on that, not to suck Miffy's dick too much, even though that's what we've been doing for the last 10 minutes. But I'll come back on that to say that he didn't have a smarter team on G2, so there weren't as many opportunities for him to show that he can be a phenomenal bot laner. And it's kind of controversial to say, but I do actually think that Patrick is performing at a level that Sven hasn't performed at for years. It's not like OG 2015 Niels, where I think he was at his peak. Like, I think
people
Sven
still
also
make
had a
out like
similar
he's like
decline.
that every fucking year though, Veteran. Like, he's one of those, like,
I know.
you know, there's a famous, I don't know if you guys know this, 'cause it's like an English idiom, but there's a famous saying that says, if you give a man a reputation as an early riser, as in he gets up early in the morning, then he can just sleep till noon. Because the point is, if you have that reputation, no one's going to notice if you don't. So like, this happens with players so often. So because in season 5, especially early on in Origin, when they were still getting the lineup together and like the old Fnatic players were like working themselves back into shape, there were some games there where he was straight hard carrying. Niels was like all over the map. He was really, really good. But I agree, like, I haven't seen that for years, mate. But people still, it's like he could just, as long as G2 won the split, he was just perma top 3 AD carry no matter what for everyone.
Yeah.
but that's
Because I don't think he's been
talked about
that much worse in TSM, to be honest. He's still pretty decent. He's not an elite player.
I'm
though.
not saying he's like horrible, but I do think
No,
that
no.
Patrick is legit top 2, top 3 right now. And I think the rest of his team is very smart. I think Cold works with him in a way that no jungler has worked with him, definitely not on TSM, obviously, but also not on G2 for a long ass time. And I think that makes a huge amount of difference with the amount of opportunities he has to show that he is a strong support. I don't think he had an opportunity like he has now to show that the strength is still there. And that can be really freeing for a player. So,
But I think it says a lot about bot lane as well. And like we talked about this earlier with Kobe, for example, that sure, his team is doing good and he's playing team fights good, which makes people rate him highly. But I think like right now the top 3 supports in Europe are Mitty, Mikyx, and Hylissang, and they're all on the top 3 teams. And you can basically make the same argument for 80 carries right now. It's probably Reckless, Patrick, Sheriff. I'm still gonna call him Sheriff. And Perks, and then we have Upset, who is the only guy who deserves to be there, but his team was collapsed, like they has collapsed, and it's not his fault, you know. But he's the only guy who is actually like, you can make an argument for sure that he's a top 3 AD carry.
Well, dude, he's the one who had that stat, remember, where he's like the only player to get a pentakill and still lose the game because like his team just ended the whole fucking game off after that.
I mean, it was a terrible penta as well, so it like sums everything up. Really.
Of course, yeah.
Terrible
Cancel, like,
pentakill
field
into a
test during that.
lost game. It's a disaster.
It's just a metaphor for Schalke. This.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. I think, yeah, maybe Niels or Sven falls into the same category, that he's on a good team, so he looks good. It's just how AD carries are, like, they get more gold than the other guy, they do more damage than the other guy, they win more fights than the other guy. It's really hard to judge the player. I'm not saying that he's not a top 3 AD carry in NA right now or anything. I'm just like, yeah, I think that's how it is, how you judge AD carries, and it's hard to judge them.
And obviously, the big problem as well is it's a 2-man lane. So he had Mithy his whole career basically as a top pro. So this is the first chance we've got to see where he didn't have Mithy, which I always wanted to see.
Yeah. And also, yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk too much about any, I guess, but the Smoothie guy haven't played in like LCS for the whole last year, I think. So it's kind of a redemption arc for that guy as well. And yeah, they made it work. So good on them.
if you get Thorin started on TSM, we will be talking about NA.
No need to, mate. There's nothing to discuss. Nothing to discuss, like I said, overrated. This video was supported by Dean Tanglis, Andreas, Snazore Westerlund, James Harding, NateDOhDoubleG, OllieJ, Tobias Bernasconi, Travis Greb, Tristan Jones, Daniel Olivar, Jiangheng Lu, and special thanks, as always, goes out to Jerky's Minion, one of my OGs. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to ask me a question. I have a monthly AMA. Perhaps you want teasers for who the next guests are on my upcoming talk shows. Maybe you want to be part of my monthly discussion where my top patrons talk to me. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the description box link for Patreon.